You do not want to miss this episode. This is our May update. What's going on the markets? What about the tariffs? What's going on in the industry? And what's going on at CNC? Hi, everyone. Welcome to Control and Compound. I am Darren Mitchell, and joining me as always, Christina Wyatt. Christina, how you doing?
Hey, Darren, I am doing great. It's a May update. I don't know how we got to May so quickly, but here we are.
It is a May update, but we just want to let listeners know we are recording this on April 24th, and we're releasing it on April 28th, or as we call it, Election Day.
Yes.
So
big things happening today.
The whole world could be different the day this comes out. But so as of now, April 24th, when we're recording this. So Christina, let's dig right into it. People are always wondering what's going on with interest rates. What's the Bank of Canada saying?
Yeah, so for those that were hoping for another interest rate cut in April, that did not happen. On April 16th, they paused cuts. So they had done 7 since about mid-2024, but they held the interest rate at 2.75%. So didn't see a cut there. Now, that's obviously because of the uncertainty everywhere, right? We'll have a completely different podcast next June, I think, when we do our June. But major uncertainty from the U.S. trade policies, the economic forecast. So the bank actually laid out 2 scenarios. One where we had a short-term hit from the tariffs that had inflation near 2%, and another prolonged trade war where we could trigger a recession, and that ended up with a inflation rate above 3%. So obviously their target rate is 3%, and they don't know what's going to happen. So they've decided to pause. If we dig into that inflation a little bit more, they did highlight that the inflation was at 2.3% in March. So it was lower than the 3% that we needed to do another cut. But again, because of, if we remove some of the factors, so we had the carbon tax cut or the reduction, the 0% for now, the fake cut, we had that carbon, but it did mess with inflation, right? It changed things because it brought gas prices down. The oil prices declined. So if we look at the CPI trim and the CPI median, we're actually looking at about a 2.8%, 2.9% inflation rate at this point in time. So we're really at that 3. So if we go into what Canadians are actually seeing and experiencing, some notable categories for inflation: food prices increased 3.2% year over year. Shelter costs rose 3.9%. Now gas prices declined that 1.6% from that fake carbon tax cut. Air transportation fell 12%. So that really had a lot to do with that inflation rate dropping to the 2.3% that we did think might give us those interest rate drops. So the data suggests that we should have had the drop or the reduction. We didn't. They're going to have another announcement on June 4th. So we'll stay tuned for that announcement. Like I said, between now and June, a lot of things are going to change. So it could be a whole new world out there for Canadians. We'll give a new update in June on that. So next update, June 4th. Now, looking at the Canadian dollar for my next update, we're looking a little better than my last update. I had the last update we did was in February, and we were at 67 cents. Oh, that was hard to see. We are at 72 cents now, so we had a little bit of a bounce back. I wish we could see more, but again, the loonie is facing uncertainty with all of these things. I can't say it enough in this podcast, right? We've got a lot of uncertainty. We've got the tariffs. We've got the interest rates dropping do affect our loonie, right? That's going to be taken into account. So we've got a lot of things going on. Now, when analysts are predicting long-term, they also don't really know. We've got a mixed bag out there. So some people are saying, it's going to continue going down, again, dependent on what happens in the next month or so, I would imagine the next couple months. Also, people are saying that it could go up because of the interest rate cuts that we've done. We might be able to stimulate some economic growth, maybe, and then that loonie's going to go up. So again, very dependent on what's going to happen in the next little bit. But right now we're sitting at 72 cents.
All right. Moving on to economic news. Well, first of all, again, we're recording this just before the election. But I did see Trudeau spent like a drunken sailor for 9 years. He came out and said, oh, we're going to have little $10 billion deficits. And of course, deficits grew and grew and grew, and they're always bigger than projected. So Mark Carney has come out and said, yeah, I'm going to have deficits even bigger than Justin Trudeau. So I think it was a $62 billion deficit that Carney was going to have. Like, he's already saying, my goal is to have bigger deficits. And again, deficits tend to always be bigger than the plan. But his spin is, but a lot of this spending, it's not spending, it's an investment. It's an investment in our growth and our future. And I'm reminded of when my wife comes back from the mall with all kinds of bags of clothes, and first thing she tells me is, guess how much I saved? It's like, no, we still spent the money. No, that's what Mark Carney's doing. Now, in full transparency, I may have used that same line when I bought my last set of golf clubs when they were on sale. But so that's what's going on politically, I guess. But I thought I read a interesting study from the Fraser Institute on housing starts, and they compared population growth to housing starts going back 1972 to 2024. So our population right now, 2023, we grew by 1.23 million, almost exclusively due to immigration. 2024, we were just bouncing around a million. And we have about 245,000 new housing starts. If we go back to the 1970s, we had about the same number of housing starts. They actually peaked in 1976 at 273,000. So we get about the same number of housing starts. But we were only growing by 200,000 people back then and not a million. So if over the last couple of 2023, we added 5.1 new residents for every housing start. From 1972 to 2024, the average has been for every 1.9 new residents, we have a housing start. So basically every 2 people, we get a housing start. Now it's every 5.1 new people, we get a housing start. Why? Because we've had this mass immigration. We're not building enough homes. What happens? Now we got this many people looking for houses, huge demand, and a very low same supply we've always had. And that's why the prices have gone up, and why home ownership is really out of reach for so many young Canadians. So that's kind of the housing update. Fraser Institute did a nice report on that. Going to the stock markets, the S&P 500's down 6% last month. Again, down 7% in the year. The way the market's going this year, that 6% could change in a day. We've had days up 6-7% and days down 6-7%. Canadian market really not as volatile, which is surprising. Down 3% last month, but down 1.5% year to date. So you read the newspaper and you think it's the end of the world and everything's crashing. Well, we're down 1.5% in the Canadian market. And again, I don't want to steal your word, Christina, but it's because of the uncertainty.
We're going to say that a lot today.
That's going on. This is the Uncertainty Podcast. All right, jump into Bitcoin. Pretty exciting month for Bitcoin for you Bitcoiners out there. We're not experts. We're not promoting Bitcoin. We're not telling you to buy it. We think it's fun to follow. Bitcoin was up about $10,000 per Bitcoin last month, so it's up around 94,000, and that's about 11% increase for the month. Now it's still flat for the year, so we're back to about even for the year. But Bitcoin just became the 5th largest asset by market cap. So what's market cap? So if you took Apple and you took all the total number of shares in Apple, and you sold them at the current price, that big number you get, that would be their market cap. So if we took all the Bitcoin out there at what Bitcoin's trading at, and we sold them all, that would be the market cap. So if you look at the 5 largest assets in the world, okay, this is the world, not just America, this is in the world, gold has a $22 trillion market cap, by far the number 1, and coming in number 2, a distant second, is Apple at $3 trillion. So Apple is the second largest market cap in the world after, just follows gold. Microsoft's at 2.7 trillion, Nvidia's at 2.4 trillion, and Bitcoin now at $1.86 billion. Other interesting Bitcoin news, I thought this was interesting. Cantor Fitzgerald, which is a big investment firm in the States, they're launching a $3 billion crypto venture with SoftBank, Tether, and another company. So Cantor Fitzgerald is run by Brandon Lutnick. Now, why is that important? Well, Cantor Fitzgerald run by Brandon Lutnick. Up until a few months ago, Cantor Fitzgerald, which is owned by and used to be operated by Brandon's dad, Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick went on to become the U.S. Commerce Secretary. That is actually has a fair amount to say about the U.S. government's Bitcoin view or crypto view. So we get this huge pro-Bitcoin guy that is now U.S. Commerce Secretary, and the company he owns that his son runs is investing $3 billion in crypto. So I'm not saying crypto is going to be part of the administration's future, but it makes you pause and say, And then lastly, on Bitcoin strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, bought another, just another $556 million of Bitcoin, another $500 million of Bitcoin. They now own 2.5% of all the Bitcoins in the world. 2.5% are owned by one little old company, Michael Saylor's company Strategy. So that's what's going on with Bitcoin. What about real estate, Christina?
Yeah, so real estate is a mixed bag as well out there. We're seeing some decreases in the average home price. We're seeing some decline in sales activity. But as always with Canada, it is a mixed landscape, right? We see different things happening in different provinces. So some we've got some decreasing, others sales activity is picking up and the average home price is going up. So if we look at the national trends overall, the national average home price stood at $678,000 in March. So that's reflecting a 1.5 increase from February. So we're up month over month, but it is a 2.9% decrease year over year. So the average home price is down 2.9% year over year right now. With sales activity, so seasonally adjusted home sales totaled about 35,000 in March. That's a 4% decline from February. And typically we start seeing it go up closer to spring. So we're down in sales activity, and we're also down 7% year over year in sales activity. So there's not a lot of things moving. I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, everybody's waiting. It's just a waiting game. They're waiting for interest rates to go down. They're waiting for the Canadian election. They're waiting for the tariffs to be resolved. There's a lot of waiting going on, I think, in the real estate market, which is slowing sales. But we have seen inventory levels go up. So active listings actually increased by 18.3% year over year. So we've got more listings in the market, which is good for those buyers out there. We're seeing more listings out there. But yeah, across the country, like I said, it's a little bit different depending on where you are. If we look at Alberta, their housing market is doing great. Like, they're doing awesome. They've got an average home price reaching $524,000 in March. That's up 3% from February, 5.5% year over year. So they're doing well. Nova Scotia, right here, we're actually doing pretty good. Our average home price hit a record of $477,000 in March, which is a 5.6% increase from February and 7.5% increase year over year. We actually had sales activity rise 20% here in Nova Scotia.
Wow.
Yeah, so nice activity happening. That's what I like about real estate. Everything else seemed a little uncertain, but I like, that doesn't sound bad. Now, if you're looking at British Columbia, you're looking at Ontario, we have seen slight decreases. So BC decreased the average home price went down 0.1% month over month, but their sales activity is up 19.6% from February, down 9% year over year, but we're seeing some movement, which is nice. So looking a little bit further out with things that are going on, if we looked at some of the forecasts, so I looked up a couple TD forecasts that there's going to be a 3.2% decline in the average home price this year. So they're saying 3.2 average across the board. The Canadian Real Estate Association last month came out, and was it last month or the month before, but they previously predicted that it was going to be a 4.7% increase to the average home price, which sounded pretty great. And then all this turmoil got thrown in. So they have come back on that. They're now saying a 0.3% increase. So they're not saying a decline. Not seeing much of an increase either. So again, a lot of things going on with this election that's happening today. There's been a lot of promises or, proposals for things like red tape getting taken away for investors, for developers. They've also got some tax incentives that they're talking about, initiatives. So depending on how that all plays out, we could start seeing, real estate investments start to flourish, or we could see more red tape. We don't know. Again, we don't know. So hopefully I have more of an update in June on what it's going to look like as an investor. I think as a real estate investor here in Canada, there's a lot of things being talked about, which is cool, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, well, I think really, the government should build all the homes. That's must be the most efficient way.
They're the best builders, right?
I couldn't get that all out without laughing. Let's get the government to build homes. They're so efficient at everything else they do. Oh my! All right, moving on to industry news. I got an interesting stat for you. So if we look at all the life insurance claims that were paid last year through insurance advisors like us, independent advisors. Last year was $10 billion in Canada. So if you think of that last year, families have received $10 billion in tax-free life insurance proceeds to, deal with the loss of a loved one. On the health insurance side, it was $50 billion. And why is that relevant? Well, the $50 billion paid out in basically health and dental claims last year. That's up 70% from a decade again. So people are claiming more, whether that be more expensive drugs or just people are sicker, up 70% in a decade. And then moving on to control and compound news, we've got a great speaker lineup or several speaking engagements coming up in May. Our own Christina Wyatt will be speaking at the Savvy Real Estate Investor Strategies Boot Camp. That's a virtual boot camp, and the tickets are free. So Savvy Real Estate Investor Boot Camp, that's on May 3rd. And then we've got a couple big headliners in Halifax at the Real Estate Investor Summit, May 9th through 11th. We've got Michelle Romano and Christina Wyatt, Controlling Compounds, Christina Wyatt, speaking with Michelle and a couple other presenters at the Real Estate Investor Summit in Halifax, May 9th through 11th.
Yeah, and then we've got another big one at the end of the month. We've got the Powerhouse Conference with headliners such as Darren Mitchell, A-Rod, Haley Wickenheiser. Like they've got some big names coming at that Powerhouse Conference. So that one is May 23rd to 25th in Toronto. So we're going to be there with the whole team, which is exciting. I'm really excited for that one as well. So those are our three big events coming up this month. If you haven't already, make sure you get tickets. They've got great lineups at all of them. I know we're speaking there too, but you definitely want to check out some of the other presenters as well. Other big news at CNC is we want to welcome Drake to our team. We have a new member of our team in operations, Drake. So for any of our clients that are listening, if you hear from Drake, make sure you say welcome. We're super excited to have him join us. So yeah, growing as always, which I love to see. So we've got a new member of the team. And then another big announcement. This one I'm super excited about. This one we've been working on for a while. We've been working with Garrett Gunderson. We've had him on the podcast before, but Amazon's best book writer, he's got best book.
He's got
author
New York Times bestseller, Wall Street Journal bestsellers.
Yes.
He is like a legend in the insurance world and in the author world as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So he wrote the book, What Would the Rockefellers Do? And he recently revamped this book for New Times, and we worked with him to be able to launch this book in Canada. So we've got a book launching, What Would the Rockefellers Do? We're launching that book this month. We have a webinar that's coming out that digs into how Canadians can use the Rockefeller strategy. This is super exciting, right? So a lot of people think that it can only be done in the US. Well, we've got a webinar. We've got education sessions that are going to teach you how to be able to do it right here in Canada. We've also got a podcast series that we're releasing. So tons of resources on this Rockefeller strategy that we're launching this month. So very exciting. We've got links below if you want to learn more. You want to watch that webinar. You want to order a book. Oh, there's also a legacy course too. There's just so many resources that we are offering. You're going to hear more about it as we go, because obviously I'm very excited about it. But definitely click the link and stay tuned, because there's going to be a lot going on.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for us to be partnering with Garrett, and I was lucky enough to write the foreword in the book, and it's a great book. The legacy course is fantastic, and just the concept of how do you pass down your values, how do you pass down your wealth most tax efficiently. It's been a lot of work, but I think our listeners are absolutely going to love it. I'm excited for that. All right, so podcasts. We had some great podcasts last month. I had Seth Ferguson, interviewed him. He's the founder of the Powerhouse Conference, the big event in Toronto. Used to be the largest real estate investing conference. Now it's focused on business owners and real estate people. We had the E-Myth. Love that book. Any business owner, it's a must-to book. We had another podcast on common mistakes when using infinite banking. And again, that actually came from listener feedback. So anyone out there that has podcast ideas they want us to talk about or topics they want us to talk about, let us know. And then what do we got coming up this month, Christina?
Yeah, so going into this month, we have a great lineup. Like I mentioned, we're going to launch the first part in our series for What Would the Rockefellers Do, the Rockefeller Strategy Series. We have a guest coming on, Pat MacGyver, and he specializes in group insurance and group benefits for business owners. And like you just mentioned, with those health claims up, I would imagine if you're a business owner, you might have heard about that as well. So Pat's going to be on here talking about group insurance, how it works best, giving his insights on group insurance. So excited for that. We also have What Happens to My Business When I Die. And this one is cool. This one's a bit of an estate planning podcast that we have. And then towards the end of the month, like we mentioned, we're going to be at the Powerhouse Conference, and we are going to be doing a podcast live from the Powerhouse Conference, which is always exciting. So we'll be doing some interviews with different presenters, different guests, or people that are at the conference, getting their perspectives. So excited for that too. We're going to have the whole team down there for a live podcast.
Yeah, and for those of you in the Ontario region, please come see us at the Powerhouse Conference. If you're able to attend, it's a great event. The speaker lineup is fantastic, and like I said, we'll have a booth there, we'll have the team there, and doing a live podcast. All right, that's the May update. Last 5 minutes, we didn't even say the word uncertainty. I was kind of proud. Turmoil. I like that turmoil word you used. That was a good spin. But that's all we got for this month. We'll see you next month. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Thanks for watching this episode of Control and Compound. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so you never miss a new episode. And if you're ready to learn more, head to our website, controlandcompound.com. The link's below.